Well, welcome back to the X Podcast. I am back here with Zachary Gen Z Brown.
Hello.
And Jesse James McCoy.
What's up?
How are we?
I have a question.
Okay.
We're going to start this podcast with a question.
All right.
Where did your habit of always giving a nickname to someone, like when you're talking to them or doing that, where did that habit start?
I would say from the womb, probably.
From the womb?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever not known you whenever you first meet someone.
Yeah.
Or do to give a nickname.
Well, I don't know if when I first meet someone, that would be obnoxious. Like you meet Mr. Jim after service. Jim, well, all right. Well, nice to meet you, Harry Jim, and then just walk off.
Well, yeah, especially if it's a Harry Jim.
Yeah, why do you have to go with that one?
I don't know. It came to mind, but I'm just saying, so it's not when I first meet people, but I just think, I've always found it endearing and nicknames, and then certain names I don't feel like I bring nicknames to things. I feel like nicknames bring themselves to me, and they just kind of scream at me. you see right now, I'm just going to read your mind. You feel a mixture of love and hate for what I just said. You're amused by it.
No, I think it's very accurate. Is what I think.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
No, you don't come up with a nickname. You're just the first to say it. You know
exactly. I'm the funnel. All right, not the originator. So don't treat me like I'm the source when I'm just the mouthpiece.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But anyway, Inquisitive Isaac, what other questions might you have?
I don't have any other questions.
Did not realize this conversation was an interview.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. So welcome back. We have Boss Man come back next week, I think. We're not sure. Pastor Tim is currently either in Colorado or San Antonio or China or Daytona or
somewhere.
Is China a real option?
I don't think so, but who knows nowadays. But anyways, we thought, why not just keep rolling down the momentum of this train of the three of us and the critical acclaim that's been building of all of our ridiculousness.
Boy, do I have some fans after my football comment last week.
Can I just say, I watched that clip about 10 times. And then I saw you and you're like, yeah, of course that would come out. They would pick that one to play on the weekend. It was the first weekend
Buckeyes
of football.
first play their
weekend.
game.
Yeah. It was,
yeah.
Hey, I stand by it.
Yeah.
But I will say, I had somebody text me, this is not a word of a lie, 20 minutes ago, and said, hey, I'm listening to last week's episode, and they agreed with my Torchy's Condados.
Oh, okay. Must be someone who doesn't really know anything about food. That's cool. I don't know. Yeah, so that's...
People have said he's my twin. That gives you a hint. I'll tell you later.
Never seen anybody that looks like your twin.
Oh, yeah. When I had hair, we were very much twins.
Really?
He knows who he is.
Okay. We'll have to figure that out.
Interesting. Okay. Well, so here's the thing. This week, we're going to kind of take a detour. Well, we're going to pivot away from the conspiracies. And we got another topic that Zachary Gen Z Brown's going to bring to us. But before we do that, we're going to have another lightning round like we have the last couple times we've done this of hot takes. Why not? Why not just dive back into the fun of it? You guys are twinning today on hats as well.
We are. It's a cool hat.
It is a cool hat. I love it. Okay, so light hot takes, then spicy. No.
Heavy hot takes.
And then heavy hot takes. All right, light hot takes. Jesse James, I'm just going to assume you're going to still be on a roll with all of yours.
Once I get going, I just start going, my first one, it's easy. Having pets is overrated.
Agreed.
Connected to that, cats are better than dogs.
Okay.
I put for the first one of mine, cats make better companions than dogs.
There we go.
I believe that both of you would think that.
What's your reasoning for
disagreeing? I think it's easy to see a cat person. I feel like you both would be cat people.
You know what? This is where you and I are different.
What characteristics define a cat person?
I think that nails me. I'm definitely a cat person.
I
don't really like cats to begin with. Pets to begin with. But cats are superior.
I love, I don't know that I would disagree with the hot take of pets can be overrated with the hype that they're given at times. I think family one day, I think it'd be fun to have a cute little dog. But cats, I just think they're these lazy, weird, demonic creatures.
Okay.
So
Is this because the cat that lives in your house?
I mean, my mom's
is
a cat lady.
All hours of the night?
Yes,
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's not just one cat. It's about 4 or 5 obese cats. I mean, they're obese.
There's nothing funnier than a fat cat.
I mean, they're a fat cat. Although I was watching the Nate Bargatze again the other night, and he was just talking about, I was like, how can you just say they're a fat cat right in front of the cat? Doesn't even know English. He was like, we can't tell if it had 7 birds for dinner, take out, and then come in and tell us before we give it its food at night. So you never know what makes a fat cat
Yeah.
fat.
Yeah. Also,
A cat fat.
yeah, I feel like your childhood room has been taken over by the cats too.
Yeah, it's full of kitty litter. Smells like it. Smells like cat.
So is there some
that's
unrepressed
The
hate for cats?
unspoken terrible part of owning a pet is the way it makes your house stink.
It is so
Yeah,
bad.
everybody's been to a house that smells like cat
Dog.
litter,
Yeah.
and everybody's been to a house that smells like wet dog.
Dude, it's the worst.
Not
Okay,
good.
okay, but see, here's my hot take at that. When you say wet dog, so I know a lot of people that for whatever reason have really, really enormous dogs, but treat them like they're indoor dogs. That's my pet peeve. Because if you have really, really enormous dogs that you let go outside, last time I was in Atlanta, I stayed at a friend's house. I won't say their names, but they had these enormous dogs. It was raining. They rolled all around in the mud. Then they, quote unquote, felt bad for the dogs because it was raining. Let them inside. They run, jump all over me, muddy and wet. I was so angry. It literally woke me up in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah, they're excited to see you. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Get them
No,
off of me.
no. Like, how could they stay outside? Because they're dogs. That's how they could stay outside.
Yeah. Wow, we're making enemies already.
Okay.
Here's what
I agree with the general hot take though. Pets are bad.
Here's
Bad? Wow.
This is still kind of
Not
my
fun.
initial hot take.
You think pets are overrated?
Pets overrated.
Yes.
You don't
Cats
think
better than dogs. The superior pet
Uh-oh.
is fish.
That's weird.
Clean the tank.
See, I don't mind that. Here's what's fun about fish. That people don't know. There's actually a lot of science in keeping fish healthy.
Okay.
And like keeping the pH of the water
Yeah,
right and all
yeah.
that. So I had a fish tank once upon a time, and it's actually really fun. So like for this kind of fish, the water has to be this type of tank. I've got another friend that actually was into fish too. Funnily enough,
That was into fish.
is into fish.
That's interesting.
Fish tanks are cool, man. You never walk by a fish
Decorating-
tank and you never like,
Yeah,
oh, that's so cool.
Decorating a fish tank would be fun.
Isn't it fun? Then you set up the little bubble tube in there, and
Yeah.
but that's the other.
Okay.
Talking about smell, that's where I'm a little hypocritical. Fish tanks can really smell
if you don't take care of them.
if you don't take care of them, for sure. Okay, my next one, I cannot wait to say this one. Very similar to Torches and Condados. Five Guys is better than Shake Shack.
Okay.
That's-
No, time out. Seriously, were you like in when I was doing mine? Because I literally put Five Guys is better than Shake Shack. It's the next one on my list.
Yeah, I just crept over to your laptop and stole all of yours.
Five Guys is for sure better than Shake Shack.
Okay, this has been between me and you there, Russ. This has been a highly contested subject for years.
This has. I honestly, I'm gonna give a counter hot take. Honest to God, I don't think either one of you should legally be allowed to eat a burger again for the rest of your life. Honestly, like, I mean, I'm not even joking. I don't think either of you should be allowed to. Like, I feel like I can't. No, you know what? I choose kindness.
Tell me how you really feel.
I choose peace.
But you're not
Yeah,
giving me
so
reasons
it's-
why Shake Shack is actually better than Five Guys.
It's just like,
Oh,
okay,
boy, here we go.
That's like saying, okay, explain why heaven is better than hell. I mean, how
That's
do,
still an
how
analogy.
do you,
I need to know why.
Let's say texture, taste.
These are all matters of preference.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it's so much better. Okay, now first off, listen. I don't think you're ever too good for a Five Guys. Five Guys burger is really good. I would never try to say that a Five Guys burger is not great. I actually think if you look at like what do you call express, like gourmet, fast food burgers, I would for sure put Five Guys in the top 5. Like, they're for sure really, really, really greasy, but they're really good. So I'm not hating on Five Guys. Like, I think they're really good. But Shake Shack is just superior in every single way. Like, if you look at all of the lists of, like, the top 5 burgers, Shake Shack always tops the list. Not to mention, I know some people care about this more than others. I love the vibe of it. I love all the other options they have on the menu as well. But I like the way they flavor the burger. I love the fact that Shake Shack burgers are one of the only fast food burgers that are cooked medium and not well or well done. I love the flavor of them. I love the fact that the burgers are steamed and like buttered. I love like all of the things you put on, like the smoked chopped cherry peppers. That's a little bit of heat. I love, oh my gosh, Shack sauce is amazing. I mean, just for a million different reasons, it's just so much better.
I will say the other menu options at Shake Shack are better. I'll agree that the vibe at Shake Shack is way better. But if we're talking burger itself, I think Five Guys is, which you are right. If you look at any list or any, like you said, fast food list, like Shake Shack's usually at the top. I don't know.
Okay, let me
That's
ask.
my hot take.
Okay, to deflate my anger, tell me this. What do you think?
I'm looking up right now on the internet if Shake Shack is actually on top of the list.
Shake Shack or In-N-Out?
16 best burger chains in America.
Did you say Shake Shack or In-N-Out? I've only had In-N-Out once,
Okay.
and it's been a really long time ago.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people, when they have In-N-Out for the first time, it's underwhelming because it's like hyped so much.
That
This
is what I
one-
remember.
This one says number 1 is Culver's, number 2 is In-N-Out Burger, number 3 is Shake Shack, number 4 is Smash Burger, number 5 McDonald's, then 6 Five Guys.
McDonald's over
I mean,
Five
not to
Guys is
stand
ridiculous.
vindicated, but here I stand. Vindicated.
Well, you said it was number 1.
I said it's.
It's above Five Guys.
I'm saying it's tops the thing. I actually think. You said, what was it? Culver's.
Culver's is good.
Never had it.
It's really
good.
good. Yeah, it's a great way to like plug the artery. It is. It's just like if you just want to put like a needle in the
Yeah.
vein and just
I-
pump butter.
Have you had a Five Guys milkshake before?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like those are comparable to Shake Shack milkshakes.
I mean, they're good. I've never felt like it was anything to write home about.
Well, I'll be honest. Big other like hot take. Not a big milkshake guy.
Milkshakes are so good.
See, I tend to like desserts that are like concrete or like. So like it's weird. Like I like ice cream. I like milkshakes. But if I'm gonna have dessert like a sweet tooth, I would rather have like something substantive or whatever. Like a cookie or a brownie or cake or like something I can actually put a fork in.
According to Yahoo Finance, Shake Shack is number 8, and Five Guys is number 7.
Ooh.
Oh well, that is why no one knows Yahoo anymore.
Well,
all right.
that's why I have so.
Do you Yahoo?
Ooh, throwback. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. I'll make these last two quick. Road trips, overhyped. I think anybody that
disagree
says
with
they
that.
like
Yeah,
to take road
definitely
trips is
disagree with
lying.
that. Definitely disagree with
There's
that.
I
just no
disagree with
way.
that.
Road trips are fun for the first 25 minutes, and then they're just awful.
No.
But I think this is attached to you hate any kind of travel.
I do hate any kind of travel, but I also feel like I've been with people that are like, "Oh, road trip's gonna be so fun," and we're an hour in, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, can we just get there already?" Like, yeah, exactly. This is awful. We're literally
Well-
trapped in a confined space, breathing each other's farts for hours.
Wow, that's descriptive. But is that okay? Okay, when you describe that, are you? Let's be honest. Are you referencing 100 middle and high schoolers on a 20-hour bus ride?
No,
Okay.
like I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. And then again, that's my hot take. But yeah, I don't like traveling, so that's fair. But
See, I
I've
love road
never
trips.
gone on a road trip that was like, man, the road trip was so fun. It's like, oh, we're finally here. Let's get out of this car.
Road trips are less fun with little children, but they're still fun. But if you're going by yourself,
Definitely disagree with what
I
you
think
just
it's who
said.
you're going with and what you're doing. Yeah. Okay. You're telling me if the three. I mean, everybody loves apparently the chemistry of the three of us. You're telling me if the three of us went on a 2 or 3 hour road trip, we wouldn't have fun?
I mean, we'd have fun, but I also think that's not to the credit of the road trip. I think if the three of us went and had a 2-3 hour dinner, we'd have just as much, if not more fun.
See, I think part of it is like
it's about the journey, not the destination, man.
Oh, shut up.
Robert Frost is slightly right, but
Live,
also
laugh, love.
oh, that makes one to vomit.
That's
But
probably what
I
you majored in at college.
I bet you have live, laugh, love plaque somewhere at home.
There's actually a Facebook profile picture.
You do. I forgot about this. Hey, if
That's
you
what I
want
live
to
and
listen,
laugh and
if
love.
if you are listening to this on a Friday and you are down and you are just having a subpar day, go back and just take a little stroll through Zach Brown's old profile Facebook pictures, and your day will be made. Nay, your week will be made. Nigh, your year will be a good year. So, man, I need to go back through that. It's been a morning. Okay.
All right. Yeah, sorry, one more.
Yep.
Soggy cereal better than dry cereal.
Oh, that's
I said what I said.
Yeah,
that's.
I will whatever cereal is. I put it in the bowl and then leave it. Wait for it to get a little soggy, and then it's good to go.
Yeah, I get that. Sometimes when I make my eggs, I'll put them away for an hour so they get cold, and then just eat them.
That's so bad.
Oh yeah.
What's wrong?
I'm not quite as bad. My wife will literally pour the cereal into the bowl and then pour the milk on top of it so it stays as dry as possible.
Yeah, I do that too. Well, I haven't had cereal probably since 1997.
Wait.
But
Hold on.
You haven't had cereal since 1997?
Hold on.
Yeah, she pours the cereal in the bowl
Yeah.
and then will slowly pour little things of milk into it
oh,
to keep it
I
dry.
thought for a second you were going to say that it goes the other way.
yeah.
Like the milk should go first. I thought is what you were saying.
Oh, actually, time out. That's what she does.
Wait, she puts milk in
Yeah,
first?
that's exactly what she does.
Yeah, that's wrong.
That's
I don't think she built.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
No, yeah, she puts the milk in first, then she puts a little bit of cereal at a time to keep it. Yes, sorry, I messed up what I was trying to say. That's exactly what she does.
That's worth an intervention.
I try to tell her it's weird. She won't believe me.
All right.
Well, Pastor Jesse stole two of mine.
I'm so
Cats
sorry.
make better
Yeah.
companions than dogs.
God didn't want this said twice.
Five Guys is better than Shake Shack. I don't know if this is a hot take, but iPhones are way better than Androids.
That's not a hot take.
I mean,
That's just the truth.
that's just normal.
If you're the person with the green that's making the group chat green, stop it.
You're the worst kind of person.
But I just don't try to tell me, ooh, you can do more customization on the Android, and you can do. No,
Lydia just texted. She said, "Are you talking about my sister's dog?" Lydia, I was not talking about your sister's dog. I promise you. But if the truth lands near, then
there you go.
I'll let you handle that.
So yes, iPhones are better than Androids. Okay, here's one.
Okay.
Crocs, like the shoes,
Yeah.
they make no sense to me.
I agree.
I don't understand why people wear them, why people think they're cool, why people think they're trendy, why you'd want to wear them. They look like my grandmother's shoe from I don't know where, but it's just they make zero sense to me.
I don't understand why people say, "Oh, they're the most comfortable shoe." No, they're not.
I know, and they look terrible.
No, they're not. They're not comfortable at all. A regular pair of just like canvas Vans are 3 times more comfortable than a pair of Crocs.
And
they
they
look way better.
And they smell because it's just your bare foot that goes in it most of the time. So it's just weird. Like Crocs are
Have you just had some R&D with this?
R&D.
Some research and development?
No, but
No.
Crocs make no sense to me. On that note, this is probably the deeper hot take behind Crocs because they're
Okay.
kind of a fashion trend right now. On that note, no fashion style is original anymore.
I mean, fashion has been cyclical for a while. It is interesting. I remember, and we always laugh, but when I worked at the Buckle, I remember I thought everything coming in was so cool. And I got so annoyed at people that were like a decade or two older that come and be like, "Oh my gosh, I remember when this was in trend." And in my young cocky mind, I'm like, "No, this was
Totally different.
totally different, and no, this was never in trend." Blah blah blah. And now, and it's so weird. I know I'm older than both of you, but when I look at 90s things that were in early 90s were in style, and now I'm like, oh, that's weird. That makes me feel old.
Well, it's weird. Like you watch a movie like The Breakfast Club, for example,
Yeah.
and you're like, they all look so cool. It's like
Yeah.
that movie's pretty old,
yeah,
and I love that movie, by the way.
It's a good movie.
But yeah, it's like, oh wow, they look. You could pluck them straight out of the movie, put them in a high school today, and they'd blend in perfectly.
yeah. It's so weird.
So maybe it's not that much of a hot take.
Yeah.
No fashion style is original. anymore.
I think they're fashion.
I think there's a lot of new takes on old fashion. I think it's probably what we're seeing a lot today.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool that it's vintage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's
But
always.
hasn't that always kind of been a thing? Like
yeah, I
vintage.
suppose that's true.
I think there's always people making new things, but I think what you're saying is fair in that a lot of general trends tend to be things that have cycled back through.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yes.
Those all yours.
Those are my lighthearted hot takes.
Okay. A couple of my lighthearted hot takes. This one I just feel like will get me murdered.
Oh, wow. I can't wait.
John Mayer's overrated.
Oh, I wholeheartedly disagree with that.
Most humans do. I think he's one of those guys that I think had a couple catchy songs.
Oh, okay.
And then it's always people. I feel like he's one of those musicians that people's defense of why he's so amazing is very technical and musical. Because I've had a lot of you destroying
My key is not working.
Okay. I've had a lot of roommates over the years or musician friends like, oh, but do you know how hard it is or how talented? And I'm like for some reason, like the talent argument of why music's good and enjoyable doesn't translate to me. I think it's a weird argument. Like you can say someone's really talented and what they do is hard. That doesn't make it more melodic or more enjoyable to me. Like if I don't find like a song catchy or like moving to me, you telling me that it was really hard what we did on the guitar doesn't change it. And I feel like he's one of those musicians that usually the argument is his skill. And so I don't have any like debate against how like talented he is. Just
Don't like his music.
Just so for me it's just a preference. I'm just like I don't find many of his songs catchy or something I would want to play in my spare time.
When was the last time you listened to a John Mayer album?
I listened to a bit of it on the way to Cincinnati. So I know some people that are really into it. I just was not loving it. I mean, back in the day when he did like Georgia, was it, or the one that was a little bit kind of off color, was it Wonderland or whatever? Like some of those songs were like catchy, like the melody was really good, but yeah, I don't know. But
I saw
most
John
people
Mayer in
really
concert
hate
a few
that.
years ago, and it was amazing.
Okay. Yeah. Here's another one that I got another overrated hot take. People around here seem to really love Florida. I think Florida's overrated.
I would actually agree with that.
Like Florida, I think especially like I would always send, because I would always tell Pastor Jim, I'm like, Florida's like, it's the town of the crazies. I mean, no, it's not. And so like every single night back before the writer's strike, all the late night hosts would always have some crazy story that only comes out of Florida and with the following jokes about this is the place of Florida. And I'd always send it to him. I mean, you have Disney World to visit and you got Miami's a cool city. And, some of the Gulf areas of like Destin are beautiful to visit. Besides that, I just think Florida's a crazy town. And it's so humid. And if you want to go to the
unbearably hot.
Unbearably hot. If you want to like go on vacation, you want to go to the coast, then go to the West Coast. Or go to the East Coast, Hilton Head, Carolinas. But I just think Florida's the town of crazies.
As the only person at this table who's lived in Florida for a time period of my life, I would agree with that. I mean, I think there's parts of Florida that are, Disney World. We all know I love Mickey Mouse. And then I think, there's parts on the Gulf side that have beautiful beaches that I actually would favor those beaches over East Coast beaches. Because when you go to the beach, you just expect it to be hot no matter where you are. But outside of just a few spots, like, it's kind of,
Yeah.
it's kind of armpity.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right. And then this one, I know, again, nobody agrees with me on. We mentioned this earlier, but I like Apple better than Spotify.
Nope.
Every time I try to use Apple, okay. So I always have my like podcast that I listen to on Fridays. There's a couple ones that I'll go through. I try to pull them up on Apple because sometimes my wife is using our Spotify account, and I have to listen to them on Apple Podcasts. And they sometimes won't load. They never load like where I last let them. where I last left them off. They sometimes will just like the Apple randomly shut down and restart. Now I love Apple. I'm an Apple fanboy, but yeah, I've not had any luck. Same with Apple Music. Apple Music has not been a great experience for me either.
That's so odd. As someone who only uses Apple for podcasts, I have never had that problem, ever once. Now, in all fairness, I will nuance this by admitting that if, like, today, Apple and Spotify start at the exact same time without any history of iTunes, I could maybe be won over to Spotify. Because there are some things I prefer about Spotify. I do prefer, just on a superficial aesthetic level, like, I like that if you want to, like, share a song to Instagram, you're going to use Spotify. And there's some people that are really nostalgic over, like, the end of the year, like, lists. I think that's really, really cool. I think for me, I like Apple number one because I'm just loyal. So I do, Apple MacBook, iPhone. I like the loyalty of it. I love the synchronicity of it, of having all of them like sync well, and the simplicity of all that. And I have literally spent the last 3 decades downloading music and creating playlists on iTunes. So I have this whole like backlog of all of the music I've already previously downloaded on there. And so it's a hard switch for me.
Yep. I would agree. I think I'm Apple fanboy through and through. Everything
Wait, really?
is Apple. But
okay.
except when it comes to Spotify.
Yes.
Spotify is better. Also, I mean, you know me. Spotify
Joe Rogan.
has Joe Rogan.
That's right.
He's exclusive Spotify, so that's where my loyalty lies.
See, that's why I would just do YouTube.
You and Joe Rogan.
He's not on YouTube.
It's always Spotify.
Oh, it's just his clips.
Just clips
right.
on YouTube.
That's
Yep.
right.
He's
Okay.
the only place to watch his podcast is Spotify.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Heavy hot takes.
Heavy hot take.
Just
Okay,
saying.
mine is, I think it is wild, borderline crazy, that we allow 18-year-old kids to sign loans for $100,000 in the form of student loans. That we let kids that have no concept of how much money that is and how long it's going to take to pay that back, that we're just like, yep, that's normal. I think that's wild. And I don't know how to fix that. This is where you two are the pros and economic Eric over here is way more versed in
Okay.
all that. And people have, thoughts on canceling student debt and all that. I get all that.
Yeah.
And I'm not educated enough to talk about. But I think just the concept of, well, college is the only way to go, which that's lessened in the past couple of years.
Yes.
And it's $100,000. And you have no concept of that.
Yep.
And even if you file bankruptcy, guess what? It doesn't go away.
Yep.
I think that's wild.
I agree. Is that your only one?
That's my only one.
All right, economic Eric. What we got?
Because you told me I couldn't say my other one.
Oh yeah. We did. Well, he vetoed your other heavy hot take.
So for me, kind of along similar lines, it's an economic one. I think when you look at where we're at right now, okay, a lot of boomers in that generation are about to retire, okay, and you see a lot of millennials, the oldest of the millennials, kind of stepping into their getting ready to turn 40, that sort of thing. Gen Z's coming up behind them. A lot of the wealth in America right now is concentrated in the boomer generation, and that wealth traditionally in societies, I'm not talking about America, but just globally, traditionally, there's always a wealth transfer from like older generations to younger generations. We're not seeing that same wealth transfer here in America. And in fact, in many ways, Gen Z is starting further behind the 8 ball. When you look at percentages wise to own a house, what they're making in terms of income, how many people have to work in a Gen Z household in order to be able to fund an income. And if we're not careful, we're going to make it impossible for young people to live here in America anymore. And I think that's going to radically change our society if that's the case. Just a couple numbers. In 1970, the average home cost $15,000. Now it costs $436,000.
That makes me sick to my stomach.
29 times more. The average rent was $108 in 1970. Now it's $2,000. It was $500 to go to college. Now it's $11,000 a year to go to college. This is average. Gas was 36 cents a gallon. Now it's $3.80 a gallon.
Is that Bidenomics?
No.
Okay.
But no, not about Bidenomics yet. Average salary in 1970 was $9,000 a year. Now it's $56,000 a year. Average number of kids in a household in 1970 was 3.5 kids in a household. Now it's 1.9 kids in a house. So you have less kids in the house. In 1970, 47% of people were in dual income households. Now that number is up to 65% of people who are in dual income households. So now, in order to like make a living, in order to be able to afford the $436,000 house and the price of a car and do all these different things, you have to work more and have less children in order to be able to like actually sustain the lifestyle that you've seen your parents and whoever grew up. So it's gonna.
All right. So tell me again in one sentence. What's your hot take?
The hot take is, if we're not careful, our culture, like the way the family unit is run and how it operates, is going to change drastically because of the wealth inequality between older generations and younger generations.
But is that more just like an economic concern? Like, I don't know. Is that a hot take?
I don't know. I was trying to come up with something.
Okay. All right. I agree, though. I agree. Okay. Mine is that there should be a complete overhaul in education, elementary through high school.
Yes.
And we may have hit some of this in podcast before, and I'll give you a couple ways I think that should happen. Because there's already a lot of talk on how college education is changing and the emphasis and what that even looks like. But I think elementary through high school should have a complete overhaul in education, and I'll give you a few bullet points of how. I think half of the day in elementary school, middle school, and high school should be subjects that are actually going to help you in real life.
Novel idea.
I know. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that nuts? So if you have 6 periods, 3 of those periods should be how do you do your taxes, how leadership development, cooking, budget and finance, conflict resolution, developing social skills, business, things that will actually help you in life. I think the basics, people should have enough math to know how to crunch a budget. They should know enough science. And then as they get older, depending on their passion, they should be have some autonomy in what they continue to develop beyond the basics when it comes to your geography, geology, science, math, all those things. Second, I think you shouldn't be able to graduate high school without being fluent in at least one other language.
Fluent.
I think that is another way that we are really, really, really behind, and it's continuing to put us behind from other nations. Not just in an educational sense and not just in our ability to be even more influential on the world stage and business stage and political stage, but also I think this is a small little nuance, but even with our polarization, I think learning a language, another culture, is just another way that helps I think build empathy, kind of expand and put ourselves in a different context mentally. On that note, I think more integration of education should be travel. So you might would hate this. I think in high school, middle school, and elementary school, there should be at least one trip international. I think the other years in high school, middle school, and elementary school, there should be at least one trip domestic to a completely different kind of state.
Who's paying for that?
I think it should be half paid for by the government, and half I think it should be built into through families. I think as long as they're above the poverty line or above the welfare line. Because my other hot take I was almost going to say is I almost think like we were doing what was the table topics? You know that card game, the table topics? I was doing that with the other night, and I don't know how you would force this, but I was like, I almost think people should be. Well, I don't know. It's tough to say because I'm not a big fan of government overreach. But I wish there was some way there would be maybe an incentive or an encouragement if maybe like the government like met you halfway, for there to be incentives for people to be encouraged to travel more. Because I think our polarity and polarization and echo chambers are only growing. and the data's in that the more you travel and put yourself in other cultures and other countries, the more that lessens, the more your mind expands, the more you become adaptive in the way you think, the more you know, all that.
I was on a conversation about education the other day with someone, and some of what they were saying about future of education was more flexibility on where you do your school and less time actually in the classroom. So less days, like going maybe to a 4-day week instead of a 5-day week. More flexibility in the actual hours or time spent in the classroom learning. Would some of your overhaul in education include that?
Maybe. I think what I was going to say a little bit more on a broad level with that is I think there should be I think part of the overhaul should be social psychologists actually getting involved and saying, what are all the paradigms that need to be flipped on their head about how students actually learn? Trying to shame a 5-year-old boy that can't sit still for 8 hours a day and think that's the way he has to learn. Is that fair to the teacher, the boy, or his education? Like, so I don't know specifically what that looks like as far as, but I do think there should be a completely new sociological, anthropological approach to how people learn, students learn. And then my other thing attached to that is teachers. I think teachers should be given a 25% pay increase. If you're a teacher listening to this, you can thank me. Well, not really, because I don't have control over it. But part two of that is I think there should be. We've all gone through some master courses of communication, and I think there should be master courses, newly developed master courses to take all teachers through when it comes to cutting edge communication techniques and communication models.
It's interesting, the 25% teacher increase, I mean, that cost would largely be pushed onto people living in the communities that they're in because schools have to levy more money in order to pay their teachers more. So that would just come in the form of tax increases. Would you be in favor of that? Would you pay more money to pay teachers more?
Maybe, but I don't know that I love
because where else is the school getting the money from?
Well, I was just going to say, but I think isn't it always like a false template when we say it has to be this way or that way?
Well, the other way
the
other way would be the government.
Yeah, I was going to say
government funding.
The government has some funds, so I think part of it
from taxpayer dollars as well.
Right.
So if and a 25% increase across the board. My wife's a teacher, so I'm all for this. So a 25% increase across the board would be really expensive. So I'm just curious if that would impact our taxes in any form or way. Would you still be in favor of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yes, if it increased taxes a little bit, but I just think there's better solutions than that. I think there's, I mean, the truth is it's not, and we'll probably get into this, it's not a lack of resources to pay teachers. It's just our country prioritizes where those resources go. So I don't necessarily think that there has to be a tax. I mean, baseball players make tens of millions of dollars a year. Money's coming from somewhere. Not to get all, controversial, because I'm in favor of us. I want democracy to reign against Russia, but a lot of people would argue on both sides, like the amount of money we've given to Ukraine shows that it's not like we're lacking money. So I bring all of that up to say I don't know that we lack the resources and would have to necessitate more taxpaying money. I just think there's probably a holistic approach of where we actually prioritizing money.
Speaking of money,
yes, that was a long ramp up
for what we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
And I don't know where this is going to go in terms of how this fleshes out over the next 20 minutes or so, but I think I was talking to you about what we could talk about today, and I said, what if we dialogue about the difference between kind of a scarcity mindset versus a wealthy mindset? And all this, we've been talking about economics a lot, and I think there's been a lot of talk as we head into a new election cycle. I was reading the other day that kind of post Labor Day is when they really kick off. They kind of say the traditional primary campaign season kicks off. And of course, the Republicans are in a primary campaign setting. So are the Democrats, but we all know who the Democrat nominee is going to be. And so as we kind of are looking ahead and the alarm bells are sounding and people are getting ready and gearing up for 2024 and what that's going to be like. And I think one of the main focuses of conversation is going to be on the economy, how well we're doing, how we're managing our money as a country, where we're at. And I think there's a lot of ways we can take this conversation. But I think for me, rather than talk about us as a country, I want to focus on us as a family or individuals first. What does it look like for us as consumers here in America to manage our money well? Because I was just reading another article that says this: Americans have more consumer debt now than at any point in our history. So we have high levels of consumer debt. Inflation's coming down, but many people are still reporting that they feel like prices are still high. And there's been a lot of conversation about, are we heading towards a recession? Are we not heading towards a recession? So in this kind of murky in-between middle that we find ourselves, interest rates are high for homes, for example. What does it look like to steward, the money that we have well? What does it look like to manage the resources that we have well? Because I don't think anyone would argue that us in America here still don't have probably the most amount of resources available to us in terms of money. And so what does it look like for us to have kind of the right mindset towards our money and how we steward our wealth well versus like maybe living in fear of what's to come, fear of a recession, fear of this, and that will maybe lead us to kind of hold a scarcity mindset. So I'm just kind of curious as I kind of set all of that up. What are some of your first initial thoughts on how we steward our money?
So like as individuals?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I feel like whether it's like with families or with churches or with individuals, money's always just a funny topic for some reason.
Yeah.
It always feel like it makes people nervous. So the first thing I think is like, why is that? Why is money so weird? Why is money weird to talk about and weird to I was talking to somebody Sunday that was asking about benevolence, and we have this kind of relationship where I said hey, well, what would it look like for me to connect you with like a financial advisor? And this person was like, oh no, I don't need that, I just need. And so I just had a conversation like, hey, like just like we all need like an emotional counselor at times, like there's nothing wrong with all of us needing a financial counselor, like and this person's like, oh, okay, but they express something that I think all of us feel at times. Like, none of us want to feel like we're bad with money. None of us want to feel like we are behind in money or not managing money well. And so it is kind of a funny topic. I'm not even sure where to start with it all. Other than, we were, I think one thing is when we talk about Americans and how they manage money, I think one thing that's important to start with is the mirror. It's not important for me to judge how others are managing money. It's important for me to figure out how am I managing money. Because I think the only thing weirder than how weird it is for us to talk about it is how judgmental we can become when it comes to the way others handle it. Yeah, I don't know. What about you, Jesse James?
Yeah. No, I mean, I like what you said about how money is such a taboo thing to talk about, but that's the only way you're going to learn how to manage it. It's like I've had more than one conversation with like a close friend that like they're doing pretty well. Obviously, they're managing their money well. I'll ask them, like, so what do you do? Like, give me some tips. I've let a friend of mine that has gone through multiple financial courses, I like let him look at my budget. It's like, I think we have to make it less taboo to talk about. Otherwise, we're never going to get better at handling it. And I think the reality for a lot of people that are in their 20s, even 30s, a lot of us don't know how to manage money well. And like you said, given the economic situation we're in, you kind of need to know how to manage money well. Like you need to know. And so
yeah, that's a really interesting insight you gave, because sometimes the Jewish community can get a bad rap on a lot of things, but one of the things I've heard from some of my friends that like they said they're in dinners with their Jewish families, and like in a lot of those Jewish families, it's not weird. They talk about money openly. Like it's a normal conversation around the dinner table, but in a healthy way.
Yep.
And they talk about, the legacy they're going to leave. They talk about in unapologetic ways the wealth that they're building so that they can be generous, make an impact on the world, and bless their kids and their kids' kids and their kids' kids. Like, and it's just and they normalize it. Like I almost wonder what comes to my mind is money culture in some ways like the parallel of unhealthy purity culture, in which you have households that never talk about sex or never talk about drinking in a healthy way. And so when it does, when people finally try to figure it out years later, it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Because the crazy thing is, we've done series here at the church, and that's a whole other topic of even talking about money in the church, but Jesus talked a lot about money. Actually, a lot about money. Part of that is that Jewish culture. Part of it is, I think, money is so connected to the heart. It is so connected, and it is just a part of life. And so to not talk about something that is so integral to everyday life, I agree. I think that's a great thought, is like, how do we remove the taboo without becoming money-centric, where we have money on our mind all the time?
Sure.
Okay, so let's drill down on this, though, because I think you both bring up some good points. But I think this topic of the way Americans manage our money is interesting to me. So when we talk about that, I think sometimes we fall into one of two ditches. Okay, so first of all, growing up for me, money wasn't something that we really talked about a ton. I feel like my parents just told me, hey, save a little bit, spend a little bit, tithe a little bit, and that's just kind of, this is what you do. Anything involving a 401k, how does retirement, what does that look like? I've had to, the process behind budgeting, I've had to figure that out on my own. And I think if that's your experience growing up, you have a tendency to, like you said, when you actually get out and you get your first big boy job and you start, money starts to come in, the first time a credit card comes across your desk and you have a chance to, oh, I've got a free $1,000. I can spend it on whatever. Let's just run it up. Let's charge it up. Let's do all this. Oh, car payment. This is normal. Everyone has got that. And you see a lot of people getting into debt and making a ton of mistakes financially this way. But then I think, so that's one ditch. I think the other ditch is sometimes you get people who are maybe so afraid of what to spend their money on, what to do, how to handle it, that perhaps they just, like the old Bible parable, they just kind of take their money and they stuff it under the mattress, or they bury it in the ground and they don't do anything with it. What's like, give me your both of y'all's perspectives on maybe what money was for you in your childhood, and then what you think how Americans handle their money, and then kind of find the balance between both of those ditches.
Yeah, there's a lot of reverse engineering there, because I'm thinking back through. So my parents, we were probably as middle class as you could get. We were not poor by any means, had everything I wanted, but we were not, wealthy by any means. I mean, they were both teachers. They were educators. Mom was an elementary school teacher. My dad was a high school teacher who eventually became a principal. And so I think I probably just did not understand money at all because I would be like, well, why can't we get that? Well, son, it doesn't work like that. We don't have it. And I'd be like, but wait. And so this is not any kind of indictment on them, but I do kind of look back and wish somebody would have just been sat me down at the kitchen table and explained hey, let's look at a budget. Here's why. Here's why this doesn't work. Here's why. I even think from my elementary school, middle school, this is part of what I'm saying, I wish somebody kind of would have sat me down and been okay, let's show you what a budget is. Here's why. Here's bank accounts, how all this works. And again, my parents are amazing, and they did the best they could. But I think I grew up, in that part of my personality, I grew up with way too much of a free spirit. It's funny when you talk about debt. I got a credit card the first time by accident. I was at American Eagle, and y'all probably hear me tell the story of, I was getting this Polo, and well, why don't you just charge that? I was like, what do you mean? They're like, you can get 10% off today if you just get a card. I was like, sweet. So I was like, signed up for it. And then like a year later, I got somebody calling saying, you've got a credit card that you didn't make a payment for. I said, what? I don't have a credit card. And they said, yeah, you signed up at American Eagle for a credit card. I'm like, oh, crap. I mean, so like I just grew up feeling like, oh, man, I don't really know what I'm doing. And I think part of that combined with my very whimsical personality, probably, just to be honest, my early years did not set me up well. And it wasn't until like college, young adult, that I went through the Dave Ramsey courses that I was like, oh, holy smokes. Like, man, it was just so eye-opening. And ended up going through it a few times. And I think I think fortunately, after going through Dave Ramsey, I've always been very conservative when it comes to debt. I've always, I think the two things I had going for me, I'm just trying to reverse engineer and give me a little biographical vulnerability. I think giving my life to Jesus early in life and having people teach me the tithe, and then going through Dave Ramsey, I think generosity and on one hand and avoidance of debt on the other hand are two things that fortunately got in me pretty early. I think what has taken me a long journey of is how to really like diligently steward well and be more frugal with all that's in between, and be more intentional on investments and saving and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that I'm like, man, I wish I'd gotten way of an earlier jump on that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers, but
No, it does. I want to hear kind of the same thing for you.
Yeah.
I want to come back.
Yeah, I think a couple of different things. One, I think thinking back to the way my parents talked to me about money, I think for each age group, I think there was always some sort of conversation happening about how to manage money well. Like I remember when I used to work construction jobs with my dad, and I'd get a little bit of money. And they'd always, it's very similar to what you said, you should tithe this much, you should save this much, and then, go to the store and spend this much. And I was always annoyed at how little the go to the store and spend this much amount was. It's like, well, that money's just going to sit in savings for till when? What's the point? And as a kid, you don't get that. And I think that kind of translates to later in life, where I think a lot of us, when we hit the college age where you have a job and you really don't have any concept of what real money is, and when you open up a store credit card and it says 28% APR, you're like, I don't know what that means. Sounds great. And it's like, oh, that means I'm going to pay that $100 purchase back over 5 years. It's going to be ridiculous. You don't get that. And so I think so much of us struggling with money is I think there's no experience or there's no teacher like experience. Like I think almost all of us have to feel that, oh crap, I made some really bad decisions and now I got to deal with it. Like I think a lot of people that I look to that are really good at money started out really bad at money. They're not the people that inherited crazy generational wealth, which most of those people squander it.
yeah.
It's you make a lot of mistakes, and then you learn from those mistakes, and you realize, I need to be very wise in the decisions that I make. But I also think, kind of what you're touching on with, the whole two ditches analogy, I think that does have a lot to do with the mindset of money in the household that you grew up in. Or if you came from wealth, or if you came from more of a lower class poverty kind of situation.
Yes.
Because I think no matter how much money's in your bank account, a lot of us will take whatever mindset we grew up with or that we saw on display in our parents, whoever we lived with growing up.
Yeah.
Whether, I know a lot of people that have done very well for themselves but still think like they're poor. And vice versa. I know a lot of people that are poor that spend like they have a lot of money. You know what I mean? And so I think mindsets matter a whole lot when it comes to money.
Yeah, so good.
Because like you talk about the scarcity mindset, I think that's very connected to a poverty mindset of I will never have enough. I'll never have enough. The inflation's crazy right now. Oh my gosh, we're not buying name brand anything. And some of that is like you're trying to disguise living in fear as being frugal.
Yeah.
And I think there is a difference.
Yes.
When you're being motivated by wisdom of like, obviously there are some wise choices when it comes to spending and not spending, obviously. But I also think you can make all those same decisions, and a lot of them can look the same, but they're motivated out of fear.
Yep.
And I'll never have enough, or what if this happens? What if this happens? And in fairness, I think that line is pretty thin between those two sometimes.
It is, yeah.
But I think, just pay attention to being aware of the mindset of money that you grew up in. Of here's how my family handled money, or I have no idea how they handled money because we never ever talked about it. And so I came into my early 20s completely blind and signed up for every this and that ever.
Yeah, I think that's so good. I think being aware of your motivations, there's a difference between fear and frugality. And I also think, like, being aware, I think it's really important in each stage. This kind of goes along with motivations, but to decide, like, what's your goal? Like, what is your goal? Because I think sometimes we judge each other, kind of go back to the judgment thing. I think we judge each other when the truth is we may just have different goals. There are people, Dave Ramsey's big, like, statement at the bottom of every page is, what is it? Live like no one else now so you can live like no one else later.
Yeah.
So some people might have vision so strong for where they want to be in a year, 5 years, that they literally are going to, in the eyes of other people, make outrageously sacrificial decisions in the way that they eat and what they do. And if they do that, then, like, even if it cramps your style, like, cheer them on. And but other people might decide, like, I don't want to have debt. I want to be blessed, but they might have a little bit more of a vision for the future, but I'm also not going to be so crazy that I don't enjoy the now. And they might loosen the belt, so to speak, and have a different take, and that's okay too. And I think really you just got to decide, like, what's my goal? Me and my family, or me as an individual, like, what's my goal? And then as you make those goals, deeper question to ask, like you said, is what's my motivation? Like, what's the spirit behind this? Because scarcity is a dangerous thing. I think having a wasteful mindset is really, really dangerous, but having a scarcity mindset, I don't care if it's in spirituality, I don't care if it's in relationships or finances, scarcity mindset always ends bad. It always ends poorly. And I actually think a scarcity mindset too not just affects the value of your life. I actually think a scarcity mindset affects the way that you view other people. I actually think a lot of the hate you see that people throw at other people comes down to this a scarcity mindset of the soul that feels like I will never have more. I'm not capable. It's almost like a hopeless feeling of I don't have the resources. I don't have whatever it takes. And so for me to feel better about myself, I'm going to tear other people down. And I actually think no matter where your starting place is, an abundance mindset is the only way you'll actually step into abundance.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I feel like people, even when it comes to how we shop, for example, are you a name brand person, or do you go middle shelf, bottom shelf? Like, what's your
depends on what we're talking about.
So, for example, if it's food, you're probably going to go more towards a higher name brand because you put value on those experiences and where you're at.
Yeah, it's hard to translate name brand. It's more like quality. Yeah, like I'm a foodie, so I have a value for cuisine, and so I will pay more for value for quality.
And for example, I have a different priority when it comes to that, so maybe I wouldn't pay as much when it comes to that experience. And I think what happens is when you get around different people, and this is just life. You just get around different people who have different mindsets, and they come from different backgrounds. And we're talking about that a lot. It's easy to, like you said, to judge other people for the different values that they put on different things. And I find myself a lot either feeling like I'm projecting onto other people, or I'm receiving other people's projections of how I should be spending my money or what I should be doing with my money. And I think it kind of leads to this phenomenon that we all know of. If I could sum it up in a phrase, it's just kind of like the whole idea of keeping up with the Jones. Well, kind of when we were, ping-ponging back and forth on Monday, or I guess yesterday, about all this, like, I brought up, I'll kind of, like, in a friendly way pick on him, but I won't say the name, but shout out to one of our cousin podcasts, and one of the people that listen to this podcast a lot, just to pick on him for a minute, is kind of talking through one day his frustration or disdain for how expensive clothes can be, and people that spend that on clothes. And I kind of take issue with that for a lot of reasons, because I think that every arena of life has people
that find artistry in that arena. I don't resonate with, I don't know. Like I would never spend tens of thousands of dollars on season tickets to a sports game from row tickets. But there are people that for them that's a value.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's completely fine. I mean, if unless they're just like, not being generous and not providing for their family or whatever, that's between them and their family. But like, in my mind, like if you're being generous and in a faith context, you're putting God first and you're paying bills and you're providing for your family and you're doing all those kind of things. I think we just need to be aware that all of us have different values and interests and hobbies. Some people, there may be some people that are snobbish and just want to feel better because of certain clothes. There's other people that literally like their passion and hobby is fashion. That they find just there's an artistry and a poetry and a design in fashion and in clothes and in the feel of them, the quality of them. For them, it's almost like being into paintings, like really high quality paintings or really high quality architecture. And there are people that will spend what some people think is a crazy amount of money on clothes. And that's not evil or wrong or crazy any more than it is the people that will spend. I almost think I think a lot of us, we consider it materialism when it's material different than what we care about.
Yep.
But I think almost all of us have some sort of hobby, some sort of interest that we would pay money that would seem crazy to other people. And I just think we need to learn how to like celebrate the different values we all have, and not critique them.
We all keep up with the Jones in our own way.
Yeah,
With our own things.
Yeah, well, that and we also think we also all have unique interests.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. But I also think there are a whole lot of people that like don't even step into the hey, here's my treat or whatever. With it's clothes, it's food, it's like for me, it's gaming stuff or whatever. Like I think there are people, and for whatever reason, it seems to be a little more popular in the church that like they don't even step into that because it's so money is evil and spending it's bad and the most
money is the root of all evil.
Yeah, one of the most misquoted scriptures of all time. Money is the root of all evil.
Right.
That's not what it says. The love of money is the root of all evil. Like I had a buddy a few years ago that made good money. His wife made good money, but they both, because they were just refused to spend their money, drove beaten down cars, wore clothes that were too old, would not eat out ever. Like it was a list that there was no like, hey bro, where do you enjoy life in all of this?
Yeah.
And so I think, like you said, there is a road in between those two ditches that we got to find ourselves on.
Yeah.
Between honestly what kind of I felt like my buddy was doing was just like stockpiling wealth for something.
Yeah.
For something. I don't know what it was for, but it was for something. And then you grow old one day and you die and you don't take it with you. And keep up with the Joneses to the point where you spin yourself into a hole and then you spend the rest of your life trying to dig your way out of that hole.
Yeah, I love the verse where God says he gives wealth and blessing without sorrow attached. And I think when we're living in generosity and when we're living in wise stewardship, I think actually God wants... it's kind of that old, it's so cliche, but I mean, would you rather evil people have wealth or good people have wealth? Kind of goes back to we were debating the whole cliche last week of does absolute power corrupt absolutely?
Yeah.
And my argument, to borrow other people's argument, is that no, it just reveals absolutely. I would rather have people with character and integrity get ridiculously wealthy. Unapologetically, I want people that know Jesus and have character to get filthy rich so that they can fund the kingdom.
Yeah.
And so that they can help end poverty and so that they can help. But if we have a weird shame-based view towards it, I think when you are operating according to God's principles, you can grow wealthy. And I think wealth is there to be invested. I think wealth is there to be generous. And I think wealth can be there to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
I think you can enjoy. And it's interesting. I think when we judge other people, I think number one, We need to understand everybody has different values.
Mm-hmm.
I think number 2 reason is it's unwise. Everybody has different scales. Generosity is not about generosity and greed has nothing to do with how much you keep or spend. It has how much to do with how much you give away. I remember like a long time ago, like when Dave Ramsey went on a rant about this. He said he had a friend that literally gave away 90% of his income. Just was this wealthy, hardworking, diligent businessman, 90% of his income. And then one day, chump change for him, decided to like buy a nice car and got so much hate for it. Oh, you're materialistic. Oh, you're a Christian. How could you be? It's like, he said, those people have no idea how radically generous my friend is. But the scale's different.
Yeah.
And kind of going back to the whole tall poppy thing, I think part of this, I'm kind of going on a rabbit trail, but I think part of it too is like for me on a personal level, maybe it's just like a posture I've tried to take on for the sake of the health of my soul. I've tried to take on a posture if I see someone score really big, get really successful, get really, buy a really nice car. I just try to take on the posture of good for them. Go. Awesome. Bravo for you.
Yeah.
I just never want to become that person who's so small that I feel threatened or angry at other people's success or the blessings they have.
Yeah.
And by the way, a lot of times we're judging what people do with an amount of money that we never may be entrusted to decide and see what we would actually do with it.
Right.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the parable of the talents. I mean, we often like to, because they're called talents, we talk in terms, especially in the church world, of like actual talent.
Yeah.
But no, it's talking about money. That I want to be a 5-bag person. I want to be trusted with 5 bags.
Yeah.
And I want to know how by stewarding well, which funnily enough, that's kind of my word for this year. I remember telling you that.
Yeah.
Is steward, and the way I've defined that is to manage with a degree of skill. Like I want to steward so well where I know how to turn 5 bags into another 5 bags. Why would you not want to do that? Even especially when it comes to our actual finances.
Yeah.
Why would that not be honoring to God? Why would that be a bad thing ever?
Yeah.
Now, when
that's good.
it turns into when money becomes your idol and all that, obviously that's bad.
Yeah.
But I think in the church world especially, and especially it's funny among like pastors too, that there's this idea in the church that it's going away, but like pastors should be poor.
Yeah.
You know, that's a little more old school, but like where that came from, how that makes any sense. Also, it's weird when pastors are balling out of control too. That's weird too.
Yes, it is.
So not to say that either, but
yeah, it's really interesting just to be vulnerable on my kind of like personal journey. I feel like I have spent more of my life on the extreme where I don't care enough about money. That may sound weird. And part of that, let me just be honest, like again, I come from not a wealthy family, not a poor family. I mean, middle class, parents, teachers, family. And I've been fortunate enough to I've worked hard, but I've had good jobs. I've been able to pay the bills. The way I'm wired personality-wise is I tend to, if I have enough money to pay the bills and do some things I really want to do and travel, like I don't think about it a lot. Like my mind, I don't worry. Almost like maybe at times I should. Like I think about relationships way heavy on my mind. Like my relationships at work, my relationships in my life, like that really matters to me. My internal world, I think about that a lot. I think about my future a lot. But as weird as it sounds, like I feel like when it comes to money, my thing is, because people sometimes are accused of thinking about it too much. I've actually been convicted by God over the last few years. I need to think about it more. I need to be intentional more of, okay, how do I multiply the bags of gold? How do I multiply this? How can I mean, at times like, man, how can I even develop side hustles or develop things? I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah.
No, it's really good. I think it's been fascinating to listen to both of you talk about this, because I think you're hitting on the things that I sense and feel, especially in, I know this is a podcast for everyone, but, we are in a Christian context, and I think that those paradigms of how Christians should feel, there's a lot of shame around money in Christian culture. There's a lot of just not knowing what to do with it when it comes to money. As we look ahead, though, towards the future, and I feel like people are always hand wringing about what the future is going to look like, and will there be World War III eventually between Russia, Poland, China, all these different things? Will the economy fall into a recession? What as we continue to go further apart politically and how we think and operate in this country, what is that going to look like for our future? What's the line? And I'm just curious for both of you. What's the line for us as Christ followers to kind of operate in between, like, how do you steward well the finances that you've been given, but also not live in fear towards the future? Like, what would you say to someone who's listening, who maybe is like, okay, how do I grow in my money knowledge, or what's a good next step for someone who's like, I want to learn more about this process?
I feel like in many ways, I feel like a hypocrite to answer, because this is one of the ways I'm constantly challenging myself. I have the head knowledge. I've been through Dave Ramsey class about 4 times. I've helped teach some of them. I've read every single one of his books multiple times. But I've been really personally challenged. I think I told y'all I spent like 3 hours this past weekend combing through item by item my budget and just being like, okay, little too much money, eating out a little bit too much, and so. But so I'm just trying to be transparent. But at the same time, I think a great place to start with money management. Sounds so cliche is Dave Ramsey. I think he's got. I just think you may not agree with everything he says. Some people love him. Some people hate him. But I just think like he keeps it simple, and I think he gives you the basics. And you can't argue with the results. I think when it comes to fear, I think really like one of the things I've tried to do when I feel like, for lack of better words, I want a financial breakthrough, or I need to, I'm asking God to increase my revenue, or I'm asking God, is I will do 2 things at once that may seem counterintuitive. I will decrease my spending and have a tight around the budget, but also increase my giving. And a lot of times I'll try to do that at the same time, because to me, I'm saying, God, I'm giving you. Robert Morris had this, New York Times best-selling book that so many churches all over the world. He just has a grace to teach on giving, so he'd be another great place to start. It's called The Blessed Life, and it's just the power of giving, the power of when you abide by the tithe and the offering, and it just read it; it'll change your life. The Blessed Life. But about 6 or 7 years later, he came out with another book, and he said, I found out in all my travels and talking to Christians that what I assumed everybody knew was the other leg of financial blessing, stewardship. I assumed people knew, but they weren't operating by it. And so he said, these 2 books I have now on finances are the 2 legs to stand and be financially blessed, both generosity and stewardship. And so I think what can happen sometimes if you're, especially, from a faith frame, if you're thinking, man, I have got to get a hold of my budget, I think it can be really easy to then even subconsciously begin to shrink into self-preservation and to begin to shrink into scarcity. And so for me, I remember back in my Lexington days, like 10, 15 years ago, our pastor, he just challenged us. He said, if you're struggling financially, as counterintuitive as it is, whether it's to this church or somewhere else, give more actually. And I remember so many people had miracle stories out of that. And so everybody has to kind of look at their situation and what makes sense. And so I'm not trying to put that as a weight on people. But I think if your goal is how can I be wiser financially, but also practically make sure I'm not living in fear, really practically decrease your spending, but also increase your giving.
It's good.
Yeah. I think when it comes to just mindset of trying to stay out of the 2 ditches, I think of, to stay out of the overspend, credit card this place up. I think to remember, again, if you're a Christ follower, I guess this is what I should preface this all with, is that, God has entrusted me with this certain amount of money. I think to remember that God has entrusted me with these 5 bags of gold, and I am going to steward that well. It's not actually mine. He gave me the ability to earn it. He gave me the ability for this season to steward this. And, the way I define steward is to manage with a degree of skill. So my job right now is to manage what he's entrusted to my care, whether it's a lot, whether it's a little, whatever. But, those who can be trusted with a little usually are given more. And so set up your life in such a way where whatever amount you have right now, you're managing it well.
Yeah.
Like you said, budget. Look at the people like Dave Ramsey and whoever else, and set your life up with some structure to make sure, okay, do I have more going out than coming in? And if there is, I need to fix that. But also on the flip side, to prevent yourself from going into the scarcity mindset, I think, is to remember that it is my job to manage this money, but also knowing that I have a perfect Father that's going to save me if I blow it.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
Because, I think it's the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus says, hey, he takes care of the birds of the air and the flowers. And look, they don't spin, they don't sow, they don't do anything. And your Father takes care of them. How much more will he take care of you? So remember, hey, this is money that God has entrusted to me. I want to do everything I can in my power and my ability to manage it well, to steward it well, but also know that at the end of the day, it's still his money that he gave me. And there's more where that came from if I blow it up.
Yeah.
And mess up, and at the end of the day, I trust God.
And so how do you, just kind of drill down on that, because I think part of this is kind of what you were getting at as well. How do you navigate the line between, okay, I'm going to steward it well, but giving myself permission here and there to enjoy life doesn't mean I'm a poor steward?
Yeah. Well, I think a couple of different ways. One, I probably don't struggle with that as much as maybe some. I am more inclined to be a spender to begin with. So I more struggle with I need to reel it in a little more, kind of like you were saying. But I think this is so funny. Every time I'm at this table now, I talk about Joe Rogan, but he has a saying. I was like, money's only cool to have if you do cool stuff with it.
I like that.
And it's kind of jokey, but it's kind of true. Well, I'm going to have money. I want to do stuff with it. I want to have cool stuff. I want to, I collect little Halo action figures and stuff. It brings me joy. It's fun. Yeah. And most of my hobbies these days are not that expensive. So,
you know what, man? This would be a fun little light thing to end on. If everybody has different values, particular values, what are some of the things that you think maybe people would judge you on or whatever? But what are some of your things that you're like, I will put money here because it's a value for me? Besides the necessities of life.
Yeah. Anything video game related or nerddom related. Like almost every time we go to the store, because I have two little boys, we have to go through the toy section. And it is just as much of a struggle for me to not buy a toy as it is for them to not get a toy. Like I walked, this is being very vulnerable here, but there was a Halo shade turret set. Two people that are listening know what that is. And almost bought it because it was on sale. But it was like $20, didn't need it. So that's where okay, wisdom is I don't need to buy every toy I see. But that's an area where I think most adults probably don't walk through the toy section and buy stuff for themselves. But I do.
And you enjoy shopping too.
I do.
Like clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
I can resonate with your thoughts on all things nerdy. I've got a bunch of Legos at my desk, for example, adult Legos. They have these cool sets. You understand it too because you like those.
So. I have many adult Lego set at home.
Yes. So and Legos are
I've not worked up the courage to bring them to the office.
There you go. Well, I'm ahead of you there. If anyone's watching wants to buy me a Christmas gift, I'll take a Lego gift card. Right. So there you go. But I don't know. I think for me, I find that I tend to actually this is going to be weird. I'm not necessarily a spender per se.
Yeah, you're not.
I'm not a crazy, but when I find something I want, whatever it is that I want, I want the best of that thing. I don't know if that makes sense. So
Amen.
Whenever whatever it is, whether it's an outfit or a home or stuff for my house or upgrading a TV system or whatever, we've had the same TV for the last 3 years in my house. You know what I mean? I'm not buying one every year. But when I think about buying a new one, I want the best TV. That's it. So I think my problem is like learning to be okay with not having like the most expensive whatever it is out there that I'm buying. I think whatever it is, I like to buy high quality items. And so learning how to like be okay with middle of the road.
I don't spend as much money, honestly, on clothes as I used to. I used to spend forever ago a lot of money. I mean, it's all relative, you know. It's funny though. I forget. It's probably one of the Dave Ramsey classes. They're like, some people, raise your hand. Some people, spend a lot of money on food. And like, some people spend a lot of money on clothes. They went through a few other things. Got done. I was like, what if your problem is like all the above? Like, I spent too much money on all of that. But I think we're good.
Well, I was gonna say actually, we're getting ready to close up this podcast, but I wanted to share one, not hot take, but like kind of thing. On that note, you're not. I don't think that's uncommon, and I actually think that a lot of people, if we're being really honest with ourselves and we're to really pull back the layer of vulnerability here, what I asked you all the question: when was the last time, if you go back through your bank statements, you actually made more money in a month than what you spent? And all of us were kind of like, it's about 50-50 or less than that per month. Not to like reveal all of our personal baggage out here on this thing.
Well, you already did.
Exactly. Too late. All that to say is like, I think it's very normal that we struggle with a lot of these things. And I think sometimes we all feel like we should be perfect at it and we got it all figured out. And I just think this is some of the normalization and not judgment that you were talking about earlier. But let's just like normalize. Like, it's okay. We like... We all struggle at times with our spending. Yeah. And going out and getting, eating out 4 times on a weekend or eat like, I don't know that there's a family out there that I know that doesn't struggle with that. And if we can all just normalize it and say it's okay, like, I'm not saying it's okay that like we're not figuring that out, but like we all struggle with that. I just think our defenses would get lowered about money and we'd actually find ways to encourage one another and help. Sorry, that was a rant.
Yeah, we're on the same boat.
It's good. Just to add one that may be a little bit unique or different, I think one of my high values that I tend to pay for is I really value experiences. That's a high value for me. So whether that's in the form of travel or live music or some sort of unique thing, like to me, like, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but like, I equate a lot of like the quality of life with the memorable experiences I can accumulate and collect along the way. And so I really will pay money for a unique experience with people.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, I think on that note, I've had a lot of fun conversations over the last couple of weeks with you three.
It's been really fun. Oh, you think? Let us know. You think? Should we eventually do a round 4 with Tim at the table and see what happens?
It'd be funny to see his hot takes. What do you think they would be?
I don't know. I don't know.
I want to hear him.
Yeah, I want to hear him.
I do want to hear him.
All right, he's gonna be back soon. If you've missed him, you'll see him again really soon. But it's been fun with you guys, and appreciate you both. And share this around if it's encouraged. Well, I don't really know if there's well, maybe it's encouraged you. I don't know. It's been fun.
Hopefully it's been entertaining.
Yeah,
at least.
It's been entertaining.
Yep.
It's been fun.
Hopefully you learned something.
Yeah.
If you learned something, maybe share it.
Yeah, absolutely.
On Spotify, not Apple.
But listen, leave a review on Spotify. Or no, on Apple.
Gotcha.
Oh my gosh. All right. Until next time, enough brainwashing. We will see you next week.